Which team will be Mihara off element? I mean, they will replace shotgun team if anything. Nice cope bait. No, shotgun don't have that much firepower until they get another for each element. Because like what you're seeing right now is like the limit of shotgun. You have to understand this is the limit of shotgun, but that's because there's only one element. No, so obviously whatever element it is, right? Like if they get whatever shotgun for that element, then they will do better. The next best one right now is sugar, but then even sugar is not really good for iron. This is what we're gonna be working on, right? Maybe if I get more upgrades of sugar, it would be a little bit more. And yeah, there's no healer, right? And so like the value of Drake is still valuable because she's buffing. And so Mihara, see if you try to use a shotgun and slap in Mihara, right? Start off with that. And I'm not gonna burst with Mihara, right? Let's just go under the assumption. I mean, so probably like 4 bursts. Let's get some 4 bursts in. Right, keep in mind this is already a shotgun team, although I guess this is fire advantage also. Okay, that's 3 bursts. Okay, bunny soda died. So take a look at this, right? This is 3 after Drake's 3 bursts or 2 bursts. Drake, bunny soda, Drake, right? Even on shotgun team, Mihara is still out damaging shotguns. I guess like Mihara technically gets a range bonus, but keep in mind majority of her damage is coming from her skill anyway. Well, half of her damage, or at least, right? And this is a team that's like solely focused on like upgrading, buffing shotguns. And still Mihara's out damaging them. Now think about it in a situation where what if the boss has core, then and like the shotguns right now also the shotguns are hitting the boss like all of their pellets. What if the boss is like there's a lot more, I guess, skeletons in it that the hit rate is like not enough, right? And this is something that I guess I want to address because like I feel like people are taking it out of context from what I said in the video. I feel like they just watched like one part of it and then like ignored like everything else, right? We can use Mihara because imagine this also. What if we have a good buffer for Mihara? We're using summer rosanna or whatever it is, right? Or even like a better B1. Now that volume is free now. Volume is free or D killer wife is free. You are gonna get use out of Mihara still, and she's likely gonna be used. And if we're gonna build like a team 4, team 5, that's not needing shotgun. And actually, wait, another thing to keep in mind, we still have Tianaga or bunnies available. So in that setup, Mihara is still gonna be better. And this is to put it to perspective, right? Because Drake is a meta DPS, or Drake is like a mainstay, right? The way we set up right now is like we're using Drake or bunny soda or Maid Privity on a shotgun team. Now the thing is like the issue with shotgun team is it, in order for it to survive, it had to use either Tianaga or bunnies, and then also it has to use stove, and then Drake just has like a really good synergy. Now there's like, who are you gonna replace? So there's a lot less flexibility in the shotgun team, right? And that's the point that I need to make though, right? Mihara, if you partner her with an on element DPS, right? It could be Bready, it could be whatever. You can make a team, let's say with bunnies, that has the on element DPS that's gonna be good for that element, and then her, and there's a pretty good chance that they would outperform a shotgun team. And right now, we have been using shotgun team in almost every raid, right? I think the most recent one that we didn't really use the shotgun team was the Material H. Now, some people did use shotgun team, but it wasn't the best team. It wasn't in the top teams. You are gonna get use out of Mihara, and I think people are taking it out of context. Oh, she's mid. You will get some mileage out of her like even on the short term, or if you don't want to invest like in like shotgun teams, or you don't have necessarily the resources or want to do the resources where you start investing in Bready, you have to start investing whatever the whoever's the flavor of the month shotgun, or sorry, flavor of the month elemental DPS, and that elemental DPS is likely not going to be the best, right? Like it's not going to be 1% tier DPS. So you are gonna get mileage out of her. You might even use Wind Asuka plus Mihara, even on that. That's something that you could take into consideration. So you can still use shotgun. You can still use. I mean, yeah, right. But then now, I think the threshold for a shotgun is you're gonna start needing to make sure that they have the appropriate elemental advantage now in order to make best use of them. Otherwise, like maybe you're better if you don't have that resources, then you're better off like using Mihara as an off element DPS, not off burst DPS, off element DPS, which is like not neutral DPS, neutral advantage. Yeah, this is just kind of to talk about a little, because I think I saw some people commenting about how they were worried that the Mihara investment was not good. It's still good, and you are, especially for people that are on a budget, I think you can get some mileage out of her in the near future. Now, when is she likely gonna be replaced? I could see it maybe on next anniversary. Well, this upcoming anniversary. Would she have like 6 months mileage usage? That's like half the year. Maybe you would have quit the game by then. So who knows, right? I think people are worried about like the duplicates of Mihara. You shouldn't necessarily be worried about it. I think you can still make good use of her. Same thing with the people that invested on Wind Asuka. You could use Wind Asuka, right? So there was someone here that mentioned, right? They had 60% fire Asuka, but the Wind Asuka was out DPSing them. That's the same situation, right? If your elemental DPS, just the fire Asuka team, and this boss doesn't have core, right? This boss doesn't have core, so fire Asuka is not gonna perform for a lot of people. If you are not prepared for them to be invested, then yeah, they're just not gonna perform. 6 months is too short. In 6 months, we would have gotten 12 characters. That's half of solar raid units, also that's at least 12 characters. Too short for a 1% unit. Okay, but all I'm saying is like the people that are saying that they wasted their resources, how is it any different than getting a DPS that's just for that particular element? So you have Mihara, who you could potentially use as neutral and can replace some low investment sub tier DPS, like mid tier DPS. She can replace that, right? Versus you constantly investing like that new unit. What you could do with Mihara, and this is one good strategy, is you can use her for neutral. Maybe you'll skip like one or two elements and then wait until like maybe a element that maybe you favor a bit more, and then that's when you can invest like on whatever that element new DPS, because usually every solar raid they put out like a new DPS element, right? Even in the 6 months, she will always be used in fire. That's true. This is just to address, because again, people were just like really worried about their Mihara investment, and it's not like extremely wasted. I don't see it as extremely wasted. I mean, let's look at Modernia. When did Modernia started kind of losing steam? I'd say a year, I guess. Once SBS came out, right? I mean, she was still kind of used though, but then you can tell that Modernia was kind of losing steam from it. 2 years. Just because you're using them doesn't mean that they're not losing steam already. They were already out of meta for a pretty good time. Or she was like, her stonks are like going out. And again, it's not like you're not gonna use her on fire advantage. So I guess this is my question for you guys. How long do you guys expect a lifespan before you are okay with power creep for these units? 1%, 2%. Because like you gotta realize we're getting new character almost every 2 weeks we're getting new character. And compared to other gacha, we have a lot more frequency on new units rather compared to other gacha, but also we get more pull currency. 1 year is reasonable for 1%. 1%, 2 years minimum. To be fair, they also increased the 1%, so power creep is also faster. Yeah, that's true. And that's why that 1% overspec. Actually, no, that is a good point also. The 1% means that it's more frequent for us to get another 1%, right? Like, so technically the 1 year value from last time is not the same as the 1 year value this time around. It would be cool if they did side grades like water has received. So the reason why water has been like getting side grades is because, yeah, it didn't get like a collab tier power spike that Wind Asuka got, right? And also it didn't get the 1%, that's why. And the thing is, like, you can see the general power level that they're trying to hover on now, which is, if you actually pay attention, it's Modernia's power level. So like Moderna used to be the 1%, but then now new units are gonna be that power level, right? Like roughly around that power level. When Quency came out, she was reaching, in her conditions, she was reaching Moderna's DPS. And so new units right now are that. We're on like year 2 going into year 3. I kind of expect them a little bit to go around the newer units power level also. Again, this is just a gradual power level increase shift that you guys are just gonna see. I think 6 months is not bad, because like if a new unit, like, I mean, look at Bready, right? A new unit, new DPS. Nowadays, the life cycle of a new DPS is not, they're not used outside of their own elements raid anymore. That's the thing. So it being used as a neutral DPS is not bad. And I have a good feeling there's gonna be a new power system, or equipment system, or whatever system that's gonna come out that will fuzzle out again who's gonna be how much is like a unit is better than the other. I could totally see that. Overload, weapon banners, unique weapons. But yeah, again, just food for thought.